Hi guys, Olive here. Here today with the next installment in my ongoing series of videos all about the 90s PBS Kids TV show Wishbone. In case you've never seen the show, it was a half-hour program for kids, and every single episode featured two different storylines. The first storyline was always an adaptation of a work from the literary canon. So most frequently that was a book, but it could also be a short story, a play, a myth, a legend, a folktale, anything like that. And then the second storyline starred a family in Texas with their pet Jack Russell Terrier Wishbone, and their modern, aka 1990s storyline was always thematically connected to that literary adaptation. In this series of videos I do here on my channel, I look at one episode of Wishbone per video and I compare that episode to the literary work that they chose to feature on that episode. I start asking some questions. What did they keep the same from the work? What did they change? Did they do the work justice? Did they give the viewer a good sense of what they could expect from that literary work if they go on to read it later on? Did they choose to pull any kind of a moral message out of the work to underscore for the audience during the episode? And then, most importantly, was it an entertaining episode to watch? In today's video, we will be looking at a late season 2 episode of Wishbone titled Barking at the Buddha, which adapts the early chapters of the classic 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West, which I've also seen be called Monkey or The Monkey King. But let's take a look. What's the story, Wishbone?
What's the story, Wishbone? What's this you're dreaming of?
At the start of this episode, Wishbone sees a news story about a heroic dog who saved a child from getting hit by a car. Wishbone is inspired by that dog's bravery. He decides to set out and find a heroic act that he could do. He stumbles into young Marcus, the nephew of the sports store owner Travis, and Jimmy, DeMont's cousin, who both really want to go with the older kids to swim at the bluff, but instead are stuck stalking a display at the store. That desire to grow up fast leads Wishbone to introduce the early story of Monkey, a mythical creature of Chinese folklore born out of a stone egg. With all of his power, Monkey quickly becomes the king of his kind, but he wants something more, so he decides to seek out someone who can teach him how to become immortal. And after a long time studying, Monkey decides to show off for the other students, transforming himself into a tree. His instructor is displeased with Monkey for his showboating and forces Monkey out, instructing him not to tell anyone who taught him what he knows. Marcus heads out as well when Jimmy rushes in and tells him that the older kids are going swimming right that moment. They both run after the older kids without telling Marcus's Uncle Travis where they're going. When they get there, the older kids are kind to the boys, but everyone tells them they're too young to jump off the bluff. So they get stuck watching the older kids' belongings while they swim. In the book adaptation, Monkey is trying to rush time along as well. He meets with the Jade Emperor and requests a high position in his court. The Emperor gives him a job in the stables, which Monkey is initially happy with, until he's told that that's a lowly position. Then he's outraged. He returns and demands a new job, a new position, and then he's assigned to the gardens containing peaches of immortality, which of course he proceeds to eat. And then he crashes a banquet and drinks jade juice, giving him even more power. There's some banquet crashing going on in Texas too, because the older kids get done swimming, to the disappointment of Marcus and Jimmy, who really wanted to join in. But all the older kids have to get ready for the 8th grade banquet, which gives the two young boys a different idea of how to ingratiate themselves with the older crew and do something important. They'll help set up the banquet. They run into Sam's dad in front of the pizza parlor he owns where the banquet is going to be held. He asks them to wait out front for Sam to arrive while he runs and grabs the trophies, which they agree to do because they want to help. But after a while, they decide that's too boring. So instead, the boys head inside and see a bunch of uncooked pizzas ready to go into the oven. Jimmy suggests that they do everyone a favor and cook off those pizzas before everyone arrives. So they throw them in the oven and then promptly get distracted, which causes the pizzas to burn, the smoke alarm to go off, and then in their panic, they accidentally trash the place and then run away. Monkey leaves quite the trail of destruction himself, and after gaining his new power from the food and drink, the Emperor's forces cannot best him. So the Emperor calls in help from the Buddha, who gives Monkey the simple task to jump out of his hand. If he does so, he will take the place of the Jade Emperor. Monkey thinks that he has achieved success until it becomes clear that he never actually left the Buddha's hand. After this, Monkey has to acknowledge the Buddha's power. A reckoning comes for young Marcus as well when his uncle Travis finds him hiding in the woods. Marcus immediately cops to what he did wrong, saying he was trying to impress the older kids by trying to be like them. Well, Travis tells him that instead he'll be apologizing because although thankfully there wasn't a fire, the banquet got canceled because of all the damage in the pizza parlor. Travis tells Marcus that growing up means making mistakes, but that if he wants to be treated like a grown-up, Marcus needs to start acting like one, which he'll be doing in short order by first helping to clean up the pizza shop and then working shifts in the sports store to help pay for all the damage. So let's talk about this episode, and something that I will say right away because it's brought up very early on in this episode as Wishbone is introducing the novel adaptation. They are only looking at Monkey's early life, meaning only a portion of the novel, only those early chapters, as I said at the start of this video. So that's something I'm going to be taking into account as I compare the two. It wouldn't exactly be fair of me to say that they left a whole bunch of things from the novel out of the literary adaptation when they say right at the start of the episode that it wasn't their intention to cover the entire thing. With that in mind, in terms of this episode's faithfulness to those early chapters, I think they did a fantastic job. Sure, just like in every Wishbone episode, they simplified things, they cut out some less important parts, they fast-forwarded a little bit, but all the major plot points that you can find in those early chapters are present in this adaptation. The major difference between this adaptation and the actual novel that I found was actually Monkey's attitude. At least in the translation of the novel that I read, Monkey isn't just overeager. He doesn't just want to be given things that maybe he hasn't earned yet. No, in the novel, he is downright arrogant. He has all this power, so he's able to get away with a lot, but that just serves to make him more out of control. He is just a menace in the novel, which actually makes it all the sweeter when he's bested by the Buddha. But there's also something in that scene with the Buddha that I noticed was different from the actual novel, although I'm pretty sure I know why they made this change. In the novel, when Monkey has decided that he has jumped out of the Buddha's hand when he sees the pillars, actually fingers, that he thinks represent the edge of the world, he doesn't just sign his name on one. In the novel, he signs his name. In this adaptation, Wishbone puts his little paw print, which is a cute touch. But he doesn't just sign his name on one in the novel. He pees on one of them. While the showrunners probably could have depicted that scene using a dog actor, lifting the leg and everything, it's probably best they didn't, especially because it's clear they didn't want Monkey to come across as too unlikable, which he definitely is in the novel. But to square up with the moral message from this episode of wanting to grow up too fast or wanting to jump into things before you're really ready, it was better to show Monkey as being more like Marcus and Jimmy, impatient and a bit too confident in his own abilities. The harmony of those two really well-matched storylines drove that moral message home. Loud and clear, exactly as intended. There was such a good flow to this episode. The adaptation was visually stunning. Initially, I found the use of the masks, which they say at the end of the episode were inspired by Chinese theater. Initially, I found the use of them a little bit odd, but I did grow used to it. But that's really my only complaint. I thought this was a really well done episode. I love when the writers take a break from the Western classics, which of course they focus on a lot throughout this series. I love when they take a break from those and focus on other cultures. And I think great things come of it when they decide to do that, and this episode is no exception. I thought it was really well done and overall success. But those were my thoughts on this episode of Wishbone. I would love to hear yours in the comment section below. And if you want to see more of these What's the Story Wishbone videos that I do, I've actually created a playlist that houses all the ones I've done up to this point, will contain all the ones I do in the future. I am planning on covering all of them, and I am approaching the end of this series. I don't have that many more to go. So if you have a favorite episode, you want to see if I've already covered it, or if you just want to start from the very beginning and watch all of them, I will link that playlist for you in the description box below and up in the cards. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.